All right. Welcome to All Things On. I'm Dr. Natalie Phillips.
I'm Dr. Hannah Galloway.
And it's Dr.
I'm Dr. Trista Hauser-Smith.
Yay, Trista. So we have Dr. Trista Hauser-Smith in the house. And so congratulations, first of all. And we are going to start with, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit and talk to us a little bit more about, you finishing up before we get to our topic of the day and what your plans are after.
Yeah, so I just graduated on Friday with my doctorate. I'm so very excited. This last year I have been working with Dr. Phillips and Dr. Galloway, as well as at the VA Center here in Northern Colorado. And I just officially accepted the job in Cheyenne, Wyoming at the VA Center up there. So I will be starting here. Beginning of June is kind of what we're looking at. We're still working on paperwork and stuff. So that will give me a couple weeks off after I'm done and get to spend time with the kids. But then I will start up there working full time, and I'm very excited about that. So
yay!
That's awesome. I saw that Clara is also accepted a position there. So one of our other students now, Dr. Marchini, is also going to be sticking around in Cheyenne. So that's awesome because now we've got like all the connections to the VA.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've helped us so much. So thank you so much for your time here. So
Absolutely.
Awesome. And for going on our lives as well. We kind of just threw you
a special person. We've had a couple students be like, no, thanks.
No, thank you. All right. Well, we have a fun topic today, and it really came from just talking to a patient that came in, and I was going over some different things with her and her husband, and we were talking about how, her hearing aids connect to her phone, and I told her about, I was in Indianapolis, I think, earlier this year, and took the kids to a museum, and there was a lot of different technology there, and one of the things they saw was this rotary telephone. And literally the kids were like, how do you use that? And I had to explain that you had to stick your finger in and like dial it all the way around and then let it go back before you dial the next number. And they were just like, their mind was blown. And so I thought that, you know what? I said, this would be a great topic to talk about is just evolution of technology. So we're going to do some fun technology first. We're going to talk about telephones first, and then we'll kind of get to hearing aids too. But we thought that this would be kind of fun to do. So I'm going to move us off to the side here. And this was kind of a really cool website or an article, I should say, about the evolution of telephones. And we're going to make some notes on this, but we decided to go ahead and just show you this article because there's so many interesting pictures of telephones. So it started back in the 1800s with this top box telephone. And I'm going to literally be scrolling for days. As you can see that they're still attached to the wall. And then there was this folding cabinet one here, which I thought was kind of interesting too. Where it kind of came off the wall a little bit. And then there was a 10-digit automatic wall telephone. It's still in the 1800s. And I had to stop and I had to look at the numbers. I'm like, okay, 10 digits. Okay, got it. Right. And then as we go along, I want to show you, I think you've seen some of these. Then it became like where you would sit in a corner and have a phone call. I thought that was kind of funny. And that was the vanity. Then we go to, here is the 11-digit telephone in the 1900s. And I thought this was kind of funny because, again, I looked at it going, okay, so which was the digit that they included? Because you got the 10 numbers. And then I can't see what's up here on the top to see, I don't know if it was the star or the pound sign or whatever. And again, kids nowadays, they're like, what's the pound sign, right? Because they're like, that's the hashtag, Mom. And then Dr. Galloway was on the phone earlier today, and I showed her this. This was the first interphone telephone. And I said, look at the buttons here at the bottom and then how the lights line up. And I was like, look at our phone now, too. And it's just so interesting because that was the first thing that they did.
When you showed me that, I was thinking that it was probably like
numbers.
Party line calling. You know what I mean? Like my grandma remembers, like her phone number was short, long. And like, so everybody's phone rang in the whole neighborhood. So you had to listen to it, but if you only picked it up if it was for you, if it was short, long, like everybody else had different combinations. And so literally you could pick up and listen to anybody's telephone call, like anytime. But that's how it worked when my grandma is 94. And so that was their phone when she was growing up, and they lived in a rural area in Missouri. And yeah, that was their phone number, was short, long.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh. I can't believe anybody could pick up on that phone call. However, okay, since I am the oldest here, hence the readers, you know, I was thinking, I do remember when it was like, I was on a telephone call and you had to like press the hang up call button to get to this other line to answer it or whatever. And then there were times where like there were other people on our phone call. So I never understood why, because I was not in the era of the short, long, but still I was like, there's somebody talking on my phone call right now. So it was interesting. I wonder how that worked.
And I bet that Hawaii was kind of behind the times, just being like an island state. I mean, I would guess that maybe the technology was a little slower. I don't know, but
yeah, who knows? Okay, so this one I also pointed out to Dr. Galloway earlier today because I was like, look at this one. This one was the anti-noise desk set, and this was in the 1920s. So interesting. So basically it said, this was by Magnavox, and it says the anti-noise desk set is an early example of noise cancellation technology. The phone began to make or to gain popularity in the 1920s. I don't even know how that thing works.
Yeah.
Maybe noise cancellation because you had it on both ears.
That's what I'm thinking. Like it wasn't really doing anything, but
yeah, like the noise cancellation of the waves, and yeah. Isn't that interesting? Okay, then they get to the desk sets. Okay, this is where like I remember that's that rotary dial type of thing, and this is what I remember. I'm kind of scrolling through this, watching you guys, trying to see what you guys remember. I have a fake one of these just as a interior design like choice because it's kind of cool. It doesn't work, but yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. So you guys don't remember these, huh?
No, I do. My same grandma, she had one of those. She only had rotary phones in her house. And I'm like everybody's resident tech help. If, you know, like when I go to her house, she gives me all of her technology stuff to fix. And I remember one time calling a line and I couldn't do the automated system. You know, it's like press 2, press 1, because it doesn't accept a rotary dial.
Oh my goodness.
And it used to say, if you remember, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, it would say, if you're using a rotary phone, like just stay on the line.
Oh my goodness. That's totally right. I totally forgot about that.
Like 1 or 2 or whatever. So
no,
I do remember those, but we didn't.
This one was the first, this is the first video phone. Oh no, sorry, not yet. Okay, so this is Princess phones. Sorry, that was an ad. God. So isn't that funny? I don't know why they were called Princess phones. Just popular.
Yeah.
Okay, then there's a Dutch phone. I do remember the Princess phones like in movies. Okay, this one was by AT&T. This was the first, guys, that was the first video phone.
Wow.
Or picture phone. What in the world? Okay, but that was in the 1970s. Like, who would carry that around or put that somewhere? Okay, look at this one too.
Okay,
it's like
my dad had one of these. My dad had a car phone, and it was like in a bag in his console, and he had a beeper, and so he would like return his beeper pages from his car phone.
Okay. This is where I age myself. I did have a beeper or a pager when I first worked at Kaiser. They gave you one as an audiologist, and like you would carry it around because they would tell you when your patient's there, and then they would page you, not beep you, but they would page you, to let you know that way. Yeah. So this was the 1980s. Okay. I do remember. Okay, so I was watching a movie, and I do remember Julia Roberts had this phone, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, look at the size of that phone!" But that was her cell phone at the time, so I thought that was kind of crazy. Motorola, kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't remember those, but I definitely remember the car phones. And they like my dad had like a bag. It was like a little like toiletry bag or something that sat in between the 2 front seats. That was the car phone bag.
So funny. Okay, I remember this. This is now coming into different movies, right? That you can think of, like these types of phones here. So the touch tone phones here is where it started as well. So really kind of crazy. We'll kind of go through this. The flip phone, the Motorola still did not have. Oh wait, maybe Julia Roberts had that one. That was probably the one that I was watching in the movie. The other one was kind of crazy. To the cordless phone, which I've had now too. I don't know what this conglomeration is, but this is kind of crazy. Wow, that's a lot of
It says
wires. I feel like that's what we say a lot here.
Go
There's a lot of
down and
wires.
read the sentence, the caption.
What does it say?
The first
Right,
GSM
yeah.
phones were not sleek or sexy.
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Me either.
particular
Does that say
I mean,
IBM? Huh.
yeah,
First
yeah.
smartphone.
I did have one of these.
That was my first cell phone.
Yeah, I did have one of these. Don't know if I had one of those. I know I had the Razor too. I know the Razor was super
yeah,
popular.
the Razor was a big deal because it came in pink.
Oh, I had a BlackBerry. Oh, it's not showing my picture. Yeah, had a BlackBerry. Isn't that crazy? Okay, yeah, and then I had a Palm Pilot. I had all the things.
When I was in high school, I transferred to a high school in Kansas City for my last year of high school. I graduated after junior year, but whenever I went through the new student orientation, they gave me a Palm Pilot.
Oh, wow.
The school issued a Palm Pilot, and you had to do all of your reading on it. Like, I read the Scarlet Letter on a Palm Pilot.
Wow.
And then you'd take tests, and you would go up to the teacher's desk and beam it in. Like,
oh my gosh. I remember holding the Palm Pilot to somebody else's, or was that the BlackBerry? That was the Palm Pilot. Yeah.
Yeah. You would beam it to the teacher. And we had to take all our tests on it and stuff. And I'm not kidding. The thing is like this big. I'm trying to read the entire Scarlet Letter on it. It was like a joke because it was before its time, but I remember feeling so sheltered because I came from rural Missouri and I had never seen such a thing. And on the first day, they're like, everybody go beam in your assignment.
That's crazy. iPhones finally started in 2007. Thank goodness. I am an iPhone user. So, it's been so crazy just to see all of this. And then, that's the last one is the iPhones.
Yeah.
And look, it says 6 now. We're on 13. So crazy. Yeah. So we thought that would be kind of interesting just to kind of show the phone technology, right, throughout the years. Because, back in the day, there's no way, if you think about it, even with hearing aids, there's no way we would have been able to connect people to using their hearing aids through their phones, right, or anything else, or teaching people how to use the live listen option on their phones or some sort of remote microphone or whatever it is. So it's been super neat to see that. So we wanted to just kind of share first of all, the evolution of phones and have some fun with it. And then the next thing that we thought we'd share too is looking at the history of Wait, did I do that right? Yes, the history of portable music. So this is just one little picture too, and it just to kind of walk you through some different things as well. So again, maybe we can kind of go through this, but I think I've had a Walkman and a Discman. I have not had an MP3 player, but I did have an iPod. So kind of crazy how portable music has gone through the ages as well, or through evolution.
I remember my dad was always kind of I guess you can say he's cutting edge of technology with his car phone, in the early 90s. But he bought me an MP3 player before iPods, and nobody knew what it was. And I remember feeling so cool because it was everyone else had a Discman, that's this big, and mine was tiny, and it was, I think it held 200 songs.
Wow.
And you had to upload them, connect it with a cord to get them off of Napster or whatever.
That's
whatever
right.
I was using for my music downloading service at the time. But that's hilarious.
Yeah, I do remember packing my CD player to go on the airplane and then have a whole accordion file full of you had to choose the ones that you wanted to listen to, and you had to slip it in and make sure, right, and make sure it was flat so that it actually played and spun. So it's kind of funny just to kind of go through that too. And again, thinking about how we use technology now to listen to music, and then even how hearing aid users use technology to listen to music. I know that Dr. Galloway, do you want to share about getting a set of hearing aids from our stock to take on the airplane and how you used hearing aids?
Yeah. So I think it was first when Whitex came out with their direct to iPhone technology, but so I borrowed some of our hearing aids and I wore them just as earphones, on the plane to be able to listen to music and try out the connectivity. And then I was wearing them to go on a walk, and my mom looked at me and goes, "Do you wear hearing aids now?" No, I don't. Not for hearing purposes, but I just wore the hearing aids to use as earphones because, especially when the connectivity first started, people had a lot of issues with it. And it's like, okay, how much of this is user error versus how much of this is, just like the Bluetooth technology. So I do think it's good to be able to like use it. Now we have iPhones, and I know Dr. Phillips and I both have AirPods. And so we understand how it all works because we use it the same thing with our AirPods, just not the app. For the hearing aids. So
well, and a tip too. So for some of our hearing aid users, a lot of people that we fit have high frequency hearing losses, right? So we fit them with an open dome, which means that you've got a lot of holes in that piece that goes into your ears. And so sometimes when you're streaming music, it doesn't sound the best. Now, some manufacturers have streaming profiles. So don't forget that some manufacturers have streaming profiles that you can adjust or that we can adjust for you. Some of them are relative to, like, if you're listening to a podcast, speech versus listening to music, right? And so you want to make sure that if you have hearing aids and you're not hearing very well, and you're like, oh, this doesn't sound very good, to talk to your audiologist, because they can walk you through maybe getting that streaming profile better. The other thing too that Dr. Galloway did that I thought was brilliant was when she borrowed those hearing aids to take on the plane, before we got our AirPods, she took closed domes as well. Do you remember that? Yeah. So she closed domes, because when you have an open fit hearing aid, you're going to hear everything, from around you. And the closed domes helped her actually close off. It's almost like a noise. I don't want to say noise suppressing, because it really isn't like doing anything.
It's just passive noise reduction, because it's actually completely blocking up your ear. So when you think about putting like, not even an AirPod, but like just an earbud in your ear, it's actually like sealing it off. And so it's passively reducing noise because it's not letting it in your ear. And I've had patients go, oh, when I listen to music on my AirPods, it sounds great. Well, you probably wouldn't want to walk around with your ears completely sealed off like that all day if you're somebody that's used to more of an open fit. So I have had patients that, travel a lot for work, that I'll give them a set of like double domes or closed domes that they can just put on their hearing aids just for the plane, or just for someplace that's really noisy, because otherwise it's hard to overcome, all of that airplane noise.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. All right. So then we have a couple more here as well. Actually, hold on. Let me close that out. And we've got actually a picture of hearing aids too. So we want to kind of talk a little bit more about hearing aid evolution. So let me get that up. And I know that Dr. Galloway also sent me.
I sent you a couple links that are just like timelines of hearing aids. I have some pictures, which are cool. But I like kind of the timeline, because it shows, at what point the different technologies were used.
Yeah. So this is an interesting picture here where it does show, the history of hearing aids from the ear trumpet. I had a plastic ear trumpet. I don't even know where we put it when we moved, but I think I took it with me because it was funny, but it was a plastic ear trumpet. From the ear trumpet band, that's back in the 1600s, you guys. And this kind of just shows you, even including a cochlear implant too, which is kind of fun, in the 1970s. Yeah. And into the fully digital hearing aid in the 1980s. And then up to this high tech where we can get it connected to your phone now. This is looks like there's rechargeable options here. This is not really a hearing aid, but it's to show you that, it's similar to some of these other hearing devices here. Let me see if I can get your
on one of these timelines I sent, it actually in 1550, somebody named Girolamo Cardano described his theory of bone conduction through the teeth. That's amazing. In 1550.
Wow.
And so I think it was that second link that I sent you, because it doesn't have very many items on it.
Is it this one?
Nope, it was one before that.
Okay, let me see. If
the first, and it's a link to a photo, so I'm not sure how it's actually going to go through. But yeah, it says in 1550, he described the theory of bone conduction through the teeth, which is really crazy because, then we started using dental implant technology much, much later to actually, do bone conduction hearing aids and that kind of thing. And bone conduction has had its own evolution. Like in school, they would show us like actually head-worn, like a headband that looks like the bone oscillator we put on in the booth at the end of your hearing test. But of course now
it's this one. Okay.
That's not necessary. You can put them on a headband for small children who can't have surgery. But they also, like maybe 5 years ago, came out with this technology called Soundbite, and it was
Is this it?
yes. Yep. So that one, it's a pretty like basic timeline, but it kind of talks about the different technologies. So, okay, 1550, that's when the bone conduction was first described. And then laryngoplasty, that's in 1878, which is amazing. So that's, let me see, that's putting tubes in the eardrums, or surgically repairing the tympanic membrane. And so that was 1878. Then ear trumpets are in 1912. Oh wait, I'm looking at this wrong. I skipped 1898. So 1898 was the first first commercial electric carbon type hearing aid. And so I have a picture here of, let's see, my pictures don't start till 1930. So we got a ways to go. But yeah, 1930 here, that's when they transitioned to battery powered hearing aids, and the batteries were actually attached to your leg. So I'm going to show this picture that's from my textbook here. Let's see if you can actually see it. She is wearing a battery pack on her leg, and that is her underwear that she's wearing. So this would go like under your clothing. But yeah, so
wow.
And this picture, yeah, 1930s, it says the amplifying unit was mounted on the chest, above the clothing so that you could pick up the sound. The battery was supplied by battery strapped to one leg with a long, flexible wire that went from your leg to the actual unit here.
Jeez.
So yeah, quite a production to wear that hearing aid.
And you think about like today, right? And that people are still like, what, 80% is what we said that of people that are still not getting the help that they need, right? Okay, try wearing a battery pack on your leg.
Yeah.
That's
and
crazy.
Even so it looks like 1944 was the first vacuum tube hearing aid. So that was one that actually had a battery inside of it, but it was enormous. So then 1996, that's when or 1984, first cochlear implants were approved. And then 1996 was when it went digital. So it was first, those carbon type hearing aids, then the external battery, then the vacuum tube, then analog, and then digital. So,
jeez, and you look at a timeline like this, and like I feel like I'm old, and when I first started, it was like the analog dials, right? There were only two companies that made digital hearing aids. It was 3M and Resound. Like I'm only at the end of this map here, really, honestly, it's not like all that other stuff is like crazy. I can't believe it, like what was the first thing that you guys remember about hearing aids? Like for me, two digital options, everything else was analog. We took our screwdrivers out, and then there were rotary dials for the volume, right? Like what do you guys, because you were kind of, I mean, Dr. Galloway and Dr. Hauser-Smith are closer in age, but maybe you remember something different in when you first started to work with hearing aids. Like what was something that you remember?
Well, my first experience just with hearing aids in my life, somebody in my 4th grade class got a hearing aid, and it was an ITE, custom made. I guess it probably was digital, because that would have been after 96. But it had terrible feedback. And I always talk about this when we talk about, kids getting hearing aids and how we need to, let them own it and let them tell people about it, because my whole class was like, what the heck is that noise coming from that kid's ear? But no one addressed it, it was just, his hearing aid, but nobody talked about it. So that's like the first hearing aid I kind of remember wondering about. As far as working with hearing aids, our professor that worked with hearing aids, that did our amplification course, she had Ziploc bags on Ziploc bags of old hearing aids that she would let us like repair, like put a hole in the casing and then repair it or whatever. But a lot of them still worked. Yeah. And she had some analog with trim pots. I've only actually clinically seen one hearing aid with trim pots, and it was at our other office. And the patient was almost 100 years old. And she was, kind of on end of life care. And it was just adjusting this hearing aid in any way we could to make her hear better. And so Dr. Phillips had to show me how to document my changes by like drawing the trim pot with like a little arrow of where I set it, because I could tell it was like high pass, low pass, and I could tell based on her hearing loss what was going to be most appropriate, but it was so like crude. It was just me like, it was like a listen and check, like, oh, well, that's probably better than it was.
It was. It like you literally had to listen and to tell which color was which, because every manufacturer, sometimes the colors were different too. So you didn't know what you were doing unless you actually listened to it. Yeah.
And when I went to Guatemala, the hearing aids we used were analog. And so they did have trim pots, but of course they were newer analog aids. But I also, had to practice that on the spot, because I would do somebody's hearing test right there with my portable audiometer and then get out my screwdriver and listen to try to figure out. I mean, we had all the same hearing aids, so I knew this one was high pass, this one was low pass after I'd done a few, but it didn't feel very, I didn't feel like it didn't feel very accurate. I guess that's the way I would describe it, because it was just kind of guess and check. Compared to digital hearing aids, which are obviously set very specifically. So,
yeah. So, we're just really, really glad. Okay. So now we talked about, well, what about you? Let's go to Trista first.
So really all of my experience is just with digital hearing aids. I did see an analog hearing aid once at the VA this past year, and this guy brought it in. It was like 20 years old. And he's like, I got this right when I got out of the military. And it's been about 20 years since he's been back. And we fit him with a digital hearing aid. And he was just crying in the office because he was like, there is such a big difference between the two. And that's the only experience I've had with an analog, and opening it up and being like, what the heck is all this? Because I have no idea. But I had the same amplification teacher, and she pulled out those same baggies, and we got to fix all of those hearing aids too, and poke the hole in it and then repair it. And
well, yeah. Trista and I's generation of audiologists, it was, the receiver in the ear. So custom hearing aids were they're kind of coming back for a certain population, but they were really ignored for a long time. And so when we were going through school, that was really the only way they could teach us how to modify them. Because if somebody walks in your clinic with one, there's all these different ways of modifying it, building it up with silicone and patching it and doing all of these things. That's such a specialized education that you're not going to get, unless somebody gives you some old hearing aids to break and fix. So.
Yeah. And I do remember, I know we talked about single-sided deafness, right? And cross hearing aids, but I do remember working with a guy who had a cross hearing aid in one of those old-fashioned glasses where it was really thick black with the lens. And it was a cross hearing aid because the sound would go through the actual glass frame through a wire, and then would come down the other side. And so I remember when they weren't making those anymore. Like, he was so upset. And so I had to order him the next generation of cross systems. So cross is contralateral routing of signals. And it was a wire behind the head, right? And I think it was made by Telex at the time. And I think they even made the glasses one too. But then we were on the wired cross systems. Then we went to non-wired, and here we are with Bluetooth that, cross systems now work amazing. So, I feel like, again, looking at that little snake pathway that's up here on the screen, I feel like we're right at the end. Like, hopefully in my lifetime, I'll make the curve, into what's next. But I do remember also that it's been crazy. When I first started doing digital hearing aids, I was like, like, there's no way something's going to be better than this.
Right.
Like, how are they going to make this better? And sure enough, manufacturers figure it out, and their research is, at least 5 years ahead, right, of what they actually release. So it's really incredible to be able to work with technology, and that's one of the things that we do as audiologists. Okay.
I wanted to speak to one point on this chart. So on 1984, that's when the FDA first approved cochlear implants. So Dr. Phillips worked with single channel implants. Now implants are 22 channel. So I remember when I first started working with her, she's like, yeah, I worked with the original cochlear implant. I'm like, what? But that was only 1984. Like, that wasn't that long ago. That cochlear implants were first FDA approved. And now, I can't remember that stat we saw recently, but I want to say it was over 800,000 people in the United States or something wear a cochlear implant. So from 1984 to now, that's almost like, 1 million people that that are now using that technology just daily, and it's their way of life. So it's pretty crazy how fast things have moved, just in the last 20 years even.
So, we talked about what we remember, right? So what is this will be the last question as we kind of close out, but what is your favorite feature or piece of technology that you've been able to use through your career?
Cochlear implants are definitely my favorite, just because there's not the barrier of feedback. So like, with the hearing aid, we actually have to amplify the sound and then put it through the ear. And, if you've ever put a microphone up next to a speaker, you have to fight feedback. Well, with an implant, it goes through a magnet and then just stimulates those electrodes in your ear, so we can give the exact precise prescription without having to limit anything. So a lot of times with hearing aids, and new hearing aids are much better than older hearing aids as far as that goes, as reducing feedback and making sure you have a good fit. But you do get patients that there is no hearing aid that's strong enough, or we simply can't amplify those frequencies because, the ear doesn't either had no response at those pitches, or it was like 120 decibels and we just can't do it. So with the cochlear implant, you don't fight that. But I also, came of age as an audiologist after they were FDA approved, when they were working on hybrid technology, which is an implant and a hearing aid kind of fused together. And so I was trained in the age of, when cochlear implants were really, really coming about and things were really changing and candidacy was changing. So I think that's part of it. But I would definitely say implants for me.
What about you, Trista?
I think just hearing aids in general right now, just having that connectivity portion of it, for a lot of my patients, like being able to listen to the television at their comfortable loudness level, whereas their other person in the room can listen to it at their comfortable level, but then they're getting it in the benefit of their hearing aid, functioning in the areas where they have that hearing loss. And so I think that connectivity portion is just, I've seen so many great things with that people will come back and be like, I haven't been able to actually enjoy the TV or sitting down and watching a movie with my spouse for so long. Like that little portion improving quality of life so much, just something like that. I really have enjoyed that part.
Yeah. I think for me, I like the health part of it. Now I know that not all hearing aids do that, but I really like how it incorporates that on an app with hearing aids. And that part really blew me away when we now have hearing aids that can actually track some health stuff. So it would be, maybe it's steps or even, environments that you're in as well, because we talk about auditory fatigue and how people can struggle, right, in noise. So really looking at those environments. And then I know that Dr. Galloway and I were at a meeting where we had a futurist talk as well. And we had conversations about this at the time, and just looking into maybe having the hearing aids, since they're already wearables that you're wearing at your ear, do other things for your health, like take your blood pressure or remind you to do, whatever it is, right? Or check your blood sugars or whatever like that. And so that really interests me a lot. And I'm super excited. Hopefully that will continue to come about, because I like the health aspect of that, because we are healthcare providers, but to be able to, and it's not like we're trying to, tell people what to do with their health, but at least to help screen and to remind people, right, to be more aware of it.
Well, and to kind of fuse multiple devices, because how many people do you know that wear a Fitbit every day or an Apple Watch, just to track their steps or their sleep? If they're already wearing hearing aids every day, hey, we can merge all of that into one app where you can get all of your information. And even for somebody that's in their 80s, it's become so user friendly that, if they already have an iPhone, you can just teach them how to access the app and, see all this information. And I think it can be really encouraging. I know for myself, when I started wearing a Fitbit, it's like, then it's this competition with yourself of getting more steps, and I'm not getting enough sleep, or my sleep is really disrupted. And so I think it's kind of encouraging for patients to, be more active.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, awesome. So thanks for kind of joining in and having a conversation with us. It's been fun to kind of just review some technology and have some fun with it. And, again, just looking back at that little snake shape that we put on, we're just kind of at the cusp of that turn. So hopefully maybe we'll pop on again, in a couple of years and see, it's probably going to be a lot different. It won't be necessarily Facebook Live. And we'll probably try to see if we can kind of get going on really talking about technology more and really introducing you guys to different types of technology, especially in the hearing world. So if you've joined and you wanted to be part of the conversation, or you're watching this on the replay, still put it in the comments. We love to hear, what you remember most about technology, whether it's telephones or music or even hearing aids. And then also, maybe what is one of your most favorite things about technology that you've experienced, and be part of the conversation with us. All right. So with that, we will be back next week with a whole new episode of All Things Odd without Dr. Trista Hauser-Smith. But we are so glad that she was here with us. Again, congratulations. And we'll be back next week. We'll see you later.
All right. Thank you. Bye.